Previously on Alan Wake, Alice has been kidnapped.
Alan, please help me.
Alice?
You'll do exactly what I say if you ever want to see your wife again.
I can't tell anyone except my agent Barry.
Damn it, Barry, they'll kill her! You're my best friend, and I'm worried that you're not right in the head.
The ransom is a manuscript I supposedly wrote that's coming true before my eyes.
It happened just the way it was on that page. So dark.
I have found only a few scattered pages.
I want the entire manuscript.
The deadline is in 2 days.
I found Mr. Wake's pages.
Good girl.
How the hell did she get her hands on the manuscript anyway?
I don't know. She's resourceful. I told you were too hard on her. Listen, I found out all sorts of interesting stuff while I was digging around.
Yeah.
Mr. Wake, it's Sheriff Breaker. We have an FBI agent here, Agent Nightingale.
FBI?
He's anxious to see you. You'd better come to the station.
Okay, I'll be right over, Sheriff. Let's make this quick, huh?
Help you folks? Name's Randolph. I'm the manager.
We're looking for Rose. Works as a waitress down at the diner.
Rose, sure. Nice girl. Who wants to know?
I'm Alan Wake.
The writer, huh? I heard on the radio you were visiting. Well, I'll show you her trailer. That Rose, she's a nice girl. Always pays her rent on time.
As I was saying, Al, I found all sorts of weird stuff from the local newspaper's archives. This place is crazy. Disappearances, mysterious deaths, urban legends come true, and get this, most of this stuff takes place around Cauldron Lake.
Well, you ain't wrong, mister. The Indians thought the lake was a doorway to the underworld. I'm the God-fearing type myself. I don't hold with that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, there was an island there owned by a guy called Thomas Zane. Now, some of the articles I found about him make him out to be a famous writer, but I ran a bunch of searches, couldn't find a single thing he wrote. Zane was heavily into diving, so much so that the place came to be called Diver's Isle. But the volcano under the lake erupted in 1970, and Zane went down with the island.
Yeah, how about that? It was there in the morning, as if it had fallen from the sky. But it would take a tornado to lift something like that. We're damn lucky it didn't crush any of the trailers.
Huh. Aside from owning his own trailer park, it looks like Randolph here may also double dip as a food service man. Fascinating.
It gets better. A local girl, Barbara Jagger, drowned in Cauldron Lake just a week earlier. They were lovers.
Sure, Jagger's a local spook story. The Scratching Hag comes for you in the dark. Childish stuff like that.
Anyway, Al, I'm just getting to the best part. All of the articles about this stuff were written by Cynthia Weaver. I asked around, and she's that crazy bag lady you met.
What, the lamp lady? She can be a little loopy, but she's not homeless or anything.
Yeah, anyway, she knew both Jagger and Zane before they both died, and she had some kind of a breakdown.
Although I suppose this isn't quite a trailer park. I'm not quite sure what one would call
Well,
an
mister,
area like
this
this.
here's Rose's
It's not quite a
trailer.
motel. Well, that is a
Mind me
trailer.
asking what you want with her?
We're just here to talk
Is
to
this
her,
a trailer? Does not appear to be a trailer. Either way, thank you for your service. Do look after that limp. Also, I need to alt-tab real quick. There we are. Just need to pull the actual chat back up, not that the large majority of you choose to make use of it. I do wish you would.
Welcome to... Oh dear, Mr. Wake. I'm so glad you're here.
Rose, you have my manuscript?
Oh. Oh yes. Yes. Please, come in.
Yes, that's not suspicious at all.
Hey, this is really good.
Rose,
Yes,
my manuscript. I really need it.
I understand. I know what you need. A muse to inspire you.
Oh, for Barry. She doesn't have anything.
Yeah, hey, Al? Al, what's... Oh...
Barry! What? What?
This is why, when a crazed fan invites you to your home, you do not eat, drink, or partake of anything they choose to serve you.
It's coming for you, hiding in my barber's skin. I'm too weak to stop it. You must turn the lights on.
I promised I'd come visit you and your lovely wife. You must finish what you started. I insist.
You must turn the lights on. Turn the light on.
Back to work, boy.
I felt nauseous, hungover. Only anger kept me going.
I can't tell reality from dream anymore, but it seems I have an imaginary editor to help me. She's an old woman in a funeral dress. I call her Barbara Jagger. She's very strict. I'm writing faster and faster. My manuscript is being heavily revised. The edits are getting very aggressive, and each day there's less of me and more of her. I hate it, but I know she's right. She promises me I can save Alice this way. She knows more of this than I do. About the complex incantation I'm attempting. About this place. She's worked with another writer under similar circumstances, Thomas Zane. The genre of the story seems to be shifting. It's turning into a horror story. I'm getting close. I can feel it.
Alas, it appears not even Rose's television is safe from being zapped. Also, Alan, it could be far worse. You could be bound to this little shrine with both of your feet broken. I can't quite make out either of those books. It appears that Barry didn't
Rose
make it
took a
much
day from me.
farther.
I had less than 12 hours left to meet the kidnapper. All I could do was get Barry into the car, work something out once I got on the road.
On the bright side, Rose, it appears as though your possession has not caused us to soil your carpets despite dropping full cups of coffee.
Welcome to the Oh Dear Diner. What can I get you today? Coffee?
I couldn't work up much hate for Rose. Something had used her to get to me and left its mark.
First refill is free. Milk and sugar on the counter there. Would you like to hear today's specials? Thank you. A nice day. Come back soon.
Not the best of signs.
Barry was out of it. He was way too heavy to carry.
You're right. I deserve more money. I'm so handsome.
Yes, quite humble in his sleep as well. Although I do find it odd they chose that exact moment to actually snore.
My gun and flashlight were gone. I'd have to find a way to get Barry into the car as quickly as possible. There was no time to waste. Mr. Randolph liked Rose. That little smile she had. How she was still sweet when life had tried so hard to make her bitter. It wasn't any of his business what she did in her trailer. But those strangers, the writer and his smart-ass sidekick, looked like trouble. And they'd been in there for hours, way past her normal bedtime. He reached for the phone and called the sheriff's station.
That's fair.
just stepped outside to catch a breath of fresh air. Let me tell you, the weather's getting heavy. Nights like this make me especially glad I'm here talking to you and not home in bed. Once the weather takes a turn like this, I can't sleep at all. It's all tangled bed sheets and dark thoughts, punctuated by the occasional plunge into nightmare. Is it just me? Well, perhaps it is. But I hope I can make the night a little bit easier to get through. Caller, you're on KBF FM.
Hey, Pat, it's Walt Snyder.
What's on your mind, Walt?
Well, I am the way you are, but, well, I can't sleep either, you know? I just been staring out the window here, trying to make sense of it all, but, I ain't been drinking either, you know, I just...
Well, you sound like a man with a problem, Walt.
I had argument with Danny, Danny, and, then I got in trouble with the law, and, I'm just, well...
I heard something like that, Walt.
Yeah, well, he's, Danny's my best friend, and, they let me out on bail today, and now I'm just alone here at the window, waiting. Man, and there's something in the air tonight, man.
I was just outside looking up at the sky above our broadcast tower thinking the same thing. What are you waiting for, Walt?
I don't know. Something's gonna happen. I think I better go.
Well, Walt, maybe...
No, thanks, Pat.
Well, good luck to you, Walt. Hang in there. Let's take a little break, folks. This weather's really something else, huh?
How can I be sure?
And time to move rather quickly away from the radio. Well, the radio... Well, I'm not quite sure where the radio tower is, but honestly the weather looks quite nice. Perhaps a little foggy. Personally, I quite prefer rainy weather. The tippy... lovely an achievement. The tippy taps of rain against the roof. The wind blowing through the trees. The occasional scattering of animals. Hiding. Taking shelter. Well, someone's got a crying baby.
Oh, you're gonna get it now. God knows what you've done to that poor girl.
This is Agent Nightingale, FBI! Get him up, Hemingway! You're under arrest! You move a muscle, I'll unload right in your goddamn face! Stay right where you are, Slade!
Yes, firing right towards a civilian. An unarmed suspect. Truly a model member of the FBI.
I'm standing right here, you goddamn maniac!
I hated to leave Barry behind, but there was no way I'd miss my appointment with the kidnapper.
Give it up, Mr. Wake. Come on. Make it easy on him.
Get after it. Don't let him get away. Move it, move it, move it. I'll have you shot. Let him get away.
We have the suspect in sight.
Okay, men. Keep your eyes peeled. He's gonna try to make it through here.
How convenient that they chose. Ow.
Oh, damn.
This way. Go.
Evidently, not even the police are above simply firing at me. Sometimes I wish I could crouch. Perhaps if you had kept a flashlight on me rather than simply firing nilly-willy, another page.
Come on, guys. We need to head him off.
For decades, the darkness that wore Barbara Jagger's skin slept fitfully in the dark place that was its home and prison. It was hungry and in pain. It dreamed of its nights of glory when the poet's writing had called it from the depths and given it a brief, terrible taste of power and freedom. The rock stars had stirred it from the deep sleep the poet had sunk it back to in the end. When it sensed the writer on the ferry, it opened its eyes.
Alright, well, back to running. It looks like the darkness is quite eager to resume after waiting so long. Well, that can't be good. Should be quite the interesting appointment.
Rose didn't know how the strange old lady got in her trailer, and she looked wrong somehow. The woman showed her teeth in an approximation of a smile and traced a finger down Rose's cheek. "Pretty girl," she said. Rose felt as if she was falling asleep, but her knees didn't buckle. The crone spoke in a whisper, her words ice cold and dark in Rose's ear.
Perhaps I can't actually go that way. Alright, well. Well, fortunately, it appears as though I have the high ground. Those flashlights, gentlemen, you may want to start using them.
This horror was everywhere I went, circling me. The cops didn't stand a chance. They were after a writer, not a monster.
He's the guy we're chasing. If it's not him, who then? Bigfoot? Over.
I don't know yet, but I'm not in the habit of jumping to conclusions. That tends to come back and bite you in the ass. Out.
What do you have against Tweed? Beyond that, yes, seriously, you expect anyone to believe the fact that an unarmed man who simply ran in the beginning is taking out every single armed officer in groups rather than picking them off one by one? Hello. How did you miss me exactly? You in an FBI helicopter.
Hold right there. There's nowhere to run.
Au contraire. Well, on the bright side, you do have some bright lights. Well, you had bright lights. You made a bright light. This isn't really much of a zoom.
This is James. Mulligan, Thornton, come in. Over. Thornton here. James, we got both Wheeler and Rose in custody. They didn't put up a fight or anything. Why, they were... Hey, Mulligan, what are you doing? Come on. Sit down and give me that. James, Mulligan here. Over. Go ahead, Mulligan. Over. We got Wheeler and Rose here. Wheeler's drunk or hopped up on something. Speaking of which, that Fed had a pretty distinctive whiff of Otis Scotch about him, if you know what I mean. Over. I don't have anything on that, Deputy Mulligan. Over. Well, whatever. Anyway, Rose is just being plain weird here. You better get Doc in to take a look at both of them. Over. Gotcha. You better get them here quickly. The, Fed's gonna want to interview Wheeler. Over. Oh, yeah, I'll bet he does. Looks like they have a lot in common. Mulligan out.
Well, at least Barry is a little safer than he was before.
I could see the lights of the radio station in the distance.
Oh, for crying out. Alright, let us never speak of that again.
The broadcast tower in the distance was part of the local radio station. Maine seemed like a decent guy. Perhaps he could give me directions to the coal mine. Unnatural shadows clung to the gate. The darkness that was after me was trying to stop me. I wouldn't get through without a light.
Got a light? I could have there we are.
There was no power to the searchlight.
You know, if your wires are spouting out sparks like a hose with holes put into it, that's not a good sign. More troublesome appears...
The old generator conked out.
More troublesome appears to be the fact that the sparks were not properly placed. Slightly annoying. So much for the gate. Ah, wonders. A flashlight. Which was oddly turned on, which makes me have doubts for its batteries, but it seems to be fine. Took a few moments for that effect to pass.
It took me a moment to recognize the flashbang grenades. They were an ideal weapon for my situation.
Team 1, come in. Over.
Delightful.
Team 1, this is Sheriff Breaker. Report. Over.
Yes, well about that.
Team 2, come in. I need a report. Over. Come on, guys. Talk to me. Come in, please. Over.
I may have some bad news. So delightfully named. There's a flash. Or rather, there's a bang and then a flash. You are annoying, aren't you? Well. Ow.
And here's another call. You're on KBFFM.
The way the music simply cuts off.
What's on your mind?
This is quite a strange place to put a radio.
And there's a big ruckus going on over there.
Well, that's just up the road from me, too. What's going on, do you know?
I don't know, but there's a bunch of police cars there, lots of sirens, a helicopter buzzing around, and I think I heard some gunshots.
Gunshots?
Yes, sir, like from a pistol. So can you find out what's going on? Because it's just next door and they're popping off guns there.
They're still shooting?
No, it was maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. It sounds serious, Pat. I'm telling you, it don't sound like no party.
Well, I'm certainly going to give the station a call, Milt.
Okay.
You'll hear it here as soon as I hear from them.
Okay, thanks.
And back on the run.
Touched by the dark presence, Rose was lost in a dreamland where everything was drawn in black and gray crayons. The old lady had promised her that all her wishes would come true. She would be Alan Wake's muse. She was smiling so hard it hurt her face. She crushed a bottle full of sleeping pills into the coffee. Deep down inside, she was screaming in terror.
You know you would... Ah, hello, I see you managed to survive that. Rose isn't exactly a bad girl. She is concerning, but even I doubt most would assume that she was doing this on purpose. I'm trying to tell where that's pointing exactly. This way. I almost feel sorry for it at this point. Where exactly is that arrow pointing me? At least they aren't quite as good at trekking uphill. See, where was that last arrow? Yes, it is in fact. Well, it does appear to be. Well, I didn't see anything, so I'll ignore it for now. Well, there is something inside this cave. Ow. That was annoying. Hello there, my good man. How are you doing? Farewell.
Maine could lend me a car to get to the coal mine.
Oh, why, hello, Lorna. What do you have for us?
Well, I just don't see why the cops bother with the trailer park.
What do you mean?
It's a trailer park. Of course you're going to have trouble in a place like that. I mean, what do you expect? The sheriff should be helping us normal citizens instead of wasting resources on those people.
Well...
Let the trash sort themselves out. I'm sorry, but my question settled in Bright Falls in...
What a busybody.
Well, thank you very much for that compassionate viewpoint, Lorna.
How can I be sure?
I know this may be something of a trusting town, but I do question leaving your door open quite this late. The Night Owl, the voice of Pat Maine, all night, every night. Early bird, start your day right, 7 to 10 a.m.
Oh, here's a little surprise. The famous writer Alan Wake just walked in. Folks, I'm going to see if I can talk him into an interview.
Yes, well, thank you very much for giving away
I'm
my
so glad you
position.
could find the time to do this, Mr. Wake.
Well, the police were quite quickly on this.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Everyone calm down. Put the gun down. We're all friends here, right?
Cool your jets, Nightingale. We got him. What the hell's the matter with you? There's a civilian in there.
The true miracle is that Alan did not, in fact, injure his hands throughout any of this.
I'll get you yet, even if it kills me. You hear me? You hear me, H.P. Lovecraft?
I had
Please
fallen
do
off so
not
many cliffs,
insult
it was
Lovecraft.
ridiculous. That's what you get for naming a book The Sudden Stop. It was probably good I hadn't had the chance to tell Maine where I was going. I'd have to lose the cops and find my own way to the mine. Nightingale stared through the broken studio window into the dark woods. He turned around, started to walk out, but Maine grabbed his arm. Young man, you almost shot me. You don't shoot off rounds at people like that. What's the matter with you? Nightingale shook his arm free, marched out. His cheeks burned with rage and humiliation.
As they should. Really, is it any question of why Alan might be running? If the one thing... Or rather, if one of the things chasing him is a lunist... I need a drink of water. Is a madman who continually shoots upon him for no real reason. Ah, delightful. Well, he did not have a good time. I feel like there might have been something in that direction. Or perhaps I should have been going in that direction. Higher and higher. Be careful, Alan. Someone of your constitution may have difficulty if the air will begin to grow thin. Not the safest of trails. Oh sure, this is where you begin to put the fence.
Danny had stepped out, but what stumbled back in was something else. Something alien. A monster. Walter tried to kill it, first with his fists, then a chair. It wouldn't die. Instead, it kept coming, unaffected by the beating it had taken. After Walter managed to kick it down the cellar stairs, fear took over. He ran, got behind the wheel, gunned the engine. The booze wouldn't make him forget, but he knew he had to try.
And no one would believe what he had seen, the poor man. Perhaps I was meant to go the other way. Not that I mind the extra collectibles. That's quite a high piece of trail. The texture poppin' from this mound is not only noticeable, it's hilariously distracting. I do hope that the remaster has corrected this. Even if they did choose to partner with Epic. Ugh. Well, at least the 2 flares I picked up came in handy. And it's still rolling. And there it goes. Yes, I do see a radio over this way, for whatever reason.
There was no sensible
Not quite a
reason
radio,
for the power company
but
work lights to be here. It was almost as if they'd been left for someone like me to use.
The darkness controls the Taken. Well, that was delightfully cinematic. It appears I still have a detractor. Next time, try sticking to your tractor, Farmer Brown.
The bulldozer's engine roared to life. Mud and rocks flew as it fought for traction. It crashed through the concrete wall and landed heavily in the yard. If it were an animal, it would have shaken its head after the impact, fixed its eyes on me, and charged. Of course, it had no head, nor eyes. Shadows crawled on its form, twisting it into a monster. Then, it came for me.
Well, evidently, I shall be needing to keep an eye out for a bulldozer.
Sarah trusted her gut, and her gut said Agent Nightingale was an asshole. He felt wrong, and it wasn't just the smell of stale booze. It was in the way he flashed his badge, pulled rank, the look in his eyes when he wanted answers. Where was Alan Wake? What was this about an accident? Where was his wife? And most importantly, why did she let Wake go? He wouldn't answer her questions. Federal business was all he'd say.
Yes, federal business. About that. While it's within supplementary materials, it does in fact turn out that Agent Nightingale is no longer part of the FBI. He was fired, or something to that extent. Which makes many players question where in the hell the FBI helicopter came from.
Hello?
The most stubborn man I've ever met.
Alice? Alice?
Alan, I'm so afraid. It keeps me in the dark. Please help me. I look at you, Alan, and it's not you. Something else. Looking out from behind your eyes.
Alice, I'm here.
I'm so alone here. It's all gonna go to hell. You need to be careful. Cooperate.
Well,
The
that
connection
sounded
had been
incredibly
terrible,
suspicious.
But that wasn't the only thing that hadn't been right with the call. She sounded wrong somehow, but she had called me. The pipe wrenched itself loose from the bridge's steel framework. Wrapped in darkness, it floated in midair, twitching. For a moment, I didn't understand what I was looking at. The heavy object lurched at me with impossible force. I threw myself out of the way, but just barely. When I turned my flashlight on it, it shook in a dark rage before it flew at me again.
Evidently, a bulldozer's not the only thing we need to keep an eye
I
out
could see a
for.
railway bridge up ahead, and a warehouse of some sort on the opposite shore. I hoped I could find a car from there.
Yes, well, before that, let's see if there's anything down this trail. Ah, lovely. Ow. Well, at least I will be getting to use that ammo refill sooner than later. And back to the bridge we head.
That was pursuing me was growing stronger, and it was taking over everything in its path. What the hell?
Unfortunately, Dark Intelligence, it may be, it is not very good at getting itself off of objects. Sneak attacking, somehow, yes, but getting itself off of objects, no.
presence that was pursuing me was growing stronger, and it was taking over everything in its path.
Right, that went much better the second time. Ow. The wheelbarrow left. It decided it had seen enough.
I slammed the door shut right in his smug face. He pleaded for me to open the door. True to form, the asshole actually thought I would obey. I had no sympathy left, no guilt either, not for him. I took a moment to savor the scream. I bet I had a smile on my face. It was all that I had time for. The dark presence was inside the lodge with me. As a teenager, just starting to get interested in writing, Stephen King had been a source of inspiration to me. I thought about all the inanimate objects that had come to life in his books. No one is safe in a good horror story. Certainly not the protagonist. That's what makes them fun. This was anything but. The darkness could possess anything, and it was getting closer.
The lights are starting to go out. Never a good sign. Ah yes, just a casual disruptive rolling. Excuse me. Give me just a moment. Congratulations, you succeeded in being slightly more annoying than usual. Good job, Alan. Quite impressive that most of those stood on. In light, you can hurt them. Well, yes, I do believe I've figured out that much.
take the facts of our existence for granted, unaware that they are merely a thin veneer of desperate self-delusion, covering a vast cosmos of madness and horror. All too often, the stars are right. In Night Springs. Tonight's episode, A Family Occasion. Journalist Alvin Derleth's trip to study the local customs of an insular community in Night Springs has been less than successful. Until tonight.
Well, I'm glad you changed your minds about this. Ancient customs, local mythology. My editor loves this kind of stuff.
Well, Mr. Derleth, we don't want to feel like we're on exhibition, but you have demonstrated the seriousness of your intent.
Oh, I am serious. Really, just do your thing. I'll stay out of your way and observe.
Actually, I thought you could assist us. I'm afraid we are a man short. It would provide you with an intimate perspective.
Could I really?
Of course, Mr. Derleth.
Well, I guess that's the least What would I have to do?
Oh, here. Let me show you with a kiss.
What did you...
Oh, Mr. Derleth, you have well pleased Nixie Perka, the dweller in flesh. Your body shall host his 1,000 young, and all shall be glory. Shh, darling, be calm. Shh.
Alvin Derleth learned a harsh lesson. If you go looking for mythology, it may come looking for you. And such quests always bear fruit. In Night Springs.
And that would likely be someone's attempt at mimicking Lovecraft. Far too short to be any kind of true horror. Although, like most modern horror, him simply lacking to see all the cues that led to his demise were laughable.
The darkness surged towards me, sucking everything loose from the ground into its depths, tugging at my clothes. I saw the flare the kidnapper had dropped and threw myself towards it just as I felt my feet leave the ground. The darkness embraced me with the force of a tornado. Somehow I managed to light the flare. The darkness roared and cast me away. I fell toward the dark waters of the lake far below.
Well, quite an ambush. Ah, and that would be the bulldozer. Having a little trouble there. What a shame. The only downside is that I'm left with one flashbang rather. Ah, well. At least I have plenty of flares.
I had never been this glad to see the sunrise. I had a couple of hours to get to the coal mine. The coal mine wasn't far now. Today, I would meet the kidnapper, and he would give me Alice. I wouldn't give him any other choice. A drowning man will clutch at a straw.
I wonder if that it has any kind of legible text beneath it. Ah, I see the coal mine has a museum. And here you may have thought that the dawn brought the end of a chapter. Not quite. We are still going. Oh, we are very much going. Can I take the car? Thank goodness.
Little by little, without realizing it, I'd come to believe that the story in the manuscript was coming true. The current of its narrative had taken me deeper and deeper into dark waters. Alice had been taken from me. Barry was probably in jail. I was a fugitive from the FBI. The whole world taken over by the Dark Presence was trying to destroy me. It all felt real, but it matched a textbook case of insanity.
Rough terrain indeed.
This is Pat Main, and you're listening to KBF-FM. Folks, I want to apologize for kind of abandoning you to that looping music track last night, but I was detained. You see, I encountered a big-shot G-man with an itchy trigger finger who could use a lesson in manners and a boot in the ass. Not necessarily in that order either. Now, folks, I know I'm not being very informative here, and I apologize for that. I really should just keep quiet, but I'm just so peeved right now, because some people just shouldn't be carrying badges. I'm just glad that our Sheriff Breaker was there to straighten things out. And if someone I met last night is listening, let me just say, I'm sorry if my mouth got you in trouble. I'm pretty sure you're not the bad guy here. Godspeed, son. I hope you know what you're doing. Now, on a lighter note, I'll be talking to Dr. Nelson all morning. But first, a little music.
Well, at least he's a good man. Unlike a certain ex-agent. Again, what is with these lack of guardrails? And you have some wooden fences right there. But still. All it would take is one popped tire and someone would go careening off.
Welcome back to KBF FM. Hope you enjoyed that tune. Now, Doc, you were talking about life and finding that special someone, that soulmate.
Well, you were talking about that. I was saying I don't buy it.
Well, see, to me, that's strange, because I always pegged you as a hopeless romantic.
You got me there, Pat. But I think love's where you look for it. And you need to do a lot of looking, sure. But the idea that there's that one special person out there for you, and if you miss that chance, it's gone forever, and you're forever incomplete. I mean, isn't that depressing? Or, heck, childish even? Hey, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
And apparently a fisherman has a fishing analogy for everything, but what you're saying, isn't that a little harsh?
Well, no. What I am saying is that your potential for finding that connection isn't limited to what's essentially a chance encounter. How is that harsh?
Yeah, well, I guess that's a nice thought, but let me say something personal here.
Okay.
Now, well, I don't disagree with you exactly, but I can't really fit that together with what I feel, what I felt for someone, because she was the one. She was. And I let her drift away from me. Maybe I didn't put in the work, I don't know, but well, since then, and it was a long time ago, but since then there hasn't been anyone, not like her. And I'm not saying I dwell on her or haven't moved on. I like my life. I'm not living in the past, but I do miss the way she completed me.
You can't argue with the heart, Pat.
I'm sorry, folks. I had kind of a scary experience last night, and let's just say it's shaking a few things loose.
For Mott, spying on the writer on the ferry had been a disappointment. His boss had made Wake out to be something special, but Mott hadn't been impressed. He'd gotten a good long look at the wife, though, and he liked what he saw. Mott had fantasized about goading Wake into a fight, but it hadn't happened. Still, he'd get his chance to see if the writer had anything in him. He'd been promised as much.
Graceful, Alan. Here, would you like another? And we continue. Bright Falls Coal Mine, Washington Mining Corps.
I was early. I was supposed to meet the kidnapper at noon in the main building. The coal mine was quiet. It was a museum now.
While lucrative at first, the mining steadily declined in the 20th century. The seams were rich but hard to get at. and the volcanic activity in the area made the mine shafts particularly, dangerous. While there were some earlier residents in the area, the true genesis of the town of Bright Falls came with the founding of the Bright Falls Mining Company and the opening of the Bright Falls coal mine in 1878. Although the work was hard and dangerous, many immigrants, Germans, Poles, Italians, Finns, and Swedes, among others, worked the mines. In 1970, a volcanic eruption below Cauldron Lake, while relatively minor, caused most of the deep mining tunnels to collapse or flood. 32 miners lost their lives in the calamity, and all mining around Bright Falls came to a final stop. Now, many of the remaining buildings are protected as historical landmarks.
I didn't want to go outside. Cops had to be looking for me. The noon sun turned the place into a sauna. The day dragged on. Different scenarios ran through my mind. Ways of how I'd torture the kidnapper to get Alice back. Or the different horrible things he could have done to her. I imagined her dead. I had no way of knowing she was still alive. It was killing me. I was running on blind hope. It was all a waste of time. The bastard never showed up.
Where the hell are you?
Change of plans. You know where Mirror Peak is? It's a big mountain north of where you are. You follow the path from the mine, you can't miss it. There's a lookout point there. I'll be waiting.
I'm through being jerked around
You
by you.
want to see your wife alive? Because if you do, you better watch what you say to me. Do we understand each other?
I want to talk to Alice.
Yeah, and I want the manuscript. Don't keep me waiting, Wake.
Hello? Hello! Ah! I'm gonna kill him!
I had to get to Mirror Peak. It was close. Maybe closer than ever before.
That is a lot of Zed fighting. That is a very glitchy texture. Graceful Alan.
When Thomas Zane fell for Barbara Jagger, it happened fast. She was young, vibrant, and beautiful, full of life. He had never been a very happy man, and without any seeming effort, she had changed all that. Zane felt good for the first time in his life. Everything she did was another piece of a jigsaw puzzle he hadn't even known he'd been missing. And best of all, she made the words flow, strong and sharp. She was his muse.
I'll deal with you in just a moment, sir. Please be patient. Alright. Goodbye. Ah, lovely. Some more flashbacks. Not the stealthiest of approaches. Those poor barrels. Well, that can't be good.
The only way to reach the hillside ahead was to go through the building. I had to find a way to avoid electrocution.
Time for your turn to feel what feels like to be ran over by an inanimate object. Well, that was exciting. Thank you, Alan, for choosing not to dodge. You know what? Let's take the direct approach this time. Thank you for your stay. Don't come again. Trust no one in the dark. You do realize I can hear you running about on the roof, correct? You're about as subtle as a bulldozer to the face.
Some of the Taken retained echoes of their former selves, but these were just the nerve twitches of a dead thing. Nothing remained but a shell covered and filled with darkness. In most cases, these puppets were enough for the purposes of the Dark Presence. But for anything more elaborate, as with the writer, it was different. It needed his mind. And so rather than taking him over completely, it merely touched him.
What do you have against pine, Dark Presence? Are you allergic? Do you hate Christmas? Did someone spit pitch on you as a child?
There was no way the flashbang grenades were standard power company equipment.
And yet you choose to bring it up. I like how they just shove me. Hey, knock it off. That's annoying. Yes, it does tend to be, but you know what else is annoying? Stabbing someone. How did you survive that?
I stared through the bars of the jail cell. Barry stood behind me, swaying on his feet, looking as ill as I felt. Agent Nightingale stood on the other side of the bars with Sheriff Breaker. Nightingale had a stack of manuscript pages in his hand. He seemed unhinged as he gloated. Well, I've got you now, Raymond Chandler. It's all here. All the evidence, including conspiracy to murder a federal agent.
I don't believe the man has any idea what he's talking about. An odd place to place a thermos. Having fun there, Alan. I appear to have awoken the bats. My apologies, little ones. You know, I can understand these being out of the way, but considering your clear aversion to darkness, I do have to wonder why you chose to put most of these dead drops in the middle of the darkest places you could find. That hurt. Does this hurt more?
I had no real plan. I was going to give the kidnapper all the manuscript pages I had for Alice. If that wasn't enough, I'd hold him at gunpoint and make him talk.
And a third in the bushes. Thank you for playing. Goodbye. Now they do appear to go to the same general place, but of course you know I have to look over here and see if there's anything in that little area. Flare gun ammunition. Quite useful. And some shotgun ammo. Quite a good choice, if I do say so myself. Hello. Thank you, Alan, for choosing not to take out the flare. Great. You'd think there would have been a checkpoint at some point. Alas, evidently
I
not.
had no real plan. I was going to give the kidnapper all the manuscript pages I had for Alice. If that wasn't enough...
Well, there
I'd
was
hold him at
nothing on the
gunpoint
right,
and
so
make
we
him
shall
talk.
simply go left once more. Evidently, I forgot to pick the pump action back up. Well, it's quite a good thing I'm not a speedrunner. Perhaps there's a page down the alternative path. In hard mode. Who knows? I am running quite low on revolver ammo.
The dark presence was moving ahead of me in the same direction I was going. A cold feeling settled itself in the pit of my stomach. Was it going for Alice?
No comments about the gravestones. Wake.
The graveyard shift may cause cancer.
Ah, there it is. I wonder if there are 32 of them. At least the windmill is still intact.
The place was dead, a ghost town. Had been for decades, maybe a century.
You know, except for whatever the hell that was. Yep, you're a bit late to react to that. Ow. Ow. That quite hurt.
Things were never as simple in real life as in fiction. I had lost count of the times I had wished there'd be a clear reason for my writer's block. Something to fight, something to lash out on. There wasn't. I was filled with doubt. I was nothing like the hero in my books. Alex Casey had gone through his life with single-minded determination, never wavering from his goal. Even now, I was angry at myself, angry at Alice, angry at Barry. I was fumbling and I had no plan.
Alan. Alan. Alright. Let's do this again.
The place was dead, a ghost town. Had been for decades, maybe a century.
Better. Grey Peak Gorge. Originally founded in 1928, the Grey Peak Gorge mining town was one of the permanent settlements the Bright Falls Mining Company built for its workers. The nearby graveyard is a testament to the dangers the miners face on a daily basis. Most of the men who lost their lives over the years here were buried there, a grim reminder to be careful for those who remain. Grey Peak Gorge was abandoned almost overnight when the Bright Falls Mining Company closed its doors in 1970. Well, at least they left their batteries and a coffee thermos. Now that's just rude. though I would quite appreciate it if you were to cease your hostilities. Well, you can simply cease. That also works. It's not a thing. Looks less like a cave-in and more like someone attempted to clumsily block this up with a rock that might look natural. Alan Wake was originally built to be an open world game. Something like Grand Theft Auto. Safe haven. But that fell through. I can't help but wonder if such a clumsy block-up is a remnant.
Anything outside of writing is a struggle. I feel ill. I managed to make my way downstairs. There's a shoebox filled with books and papers by Thomas Zane. It's very hard to focus, but I managed to read some of it. He's a poet, and a good one. He writes of muses and creators summoning fabulous things from a magic lake, using his powers to shape the world of a realm of gods and dreams and demons, dark things that wait for a chance to slip through, wearing the flesh of men as disguise. Zane writes about himself, his girlfriend being taken over by a dark presence, about growing scared of the lake. Zane believes it's a mirror to the gaping void of darkness above, where some Lovecraftian presence lurks. I crawl back upstairs. I'll borrow these things for my story. They ring true. They fit.
And a hunting rifle. Delightful. Again, what is it you have against these trees?
The kidnapper had sent me a text. The message was full of spelling errors and insults. It was telling me to hurry up.
Truly, now I identify the most with Alan Wake. Just like my author, pointing out every error, every grammatical issue, every piece of incorrect spelling. Ah, well, it is natural.
Birds.
A bit preemptive, but I did need to sneeze. I do wonder how the kidnapper got across these. They charged at me and then decided, no, we aren't having any of this. The way they just snap out of existence while screaming is amusing. Ah yes, Alan Wake, the author, can tell that this area in a coal mine is in fact a silver mine, specifically. enchanted if you do look close. Although that appears more like copper or some such. Excuse me. While I'm taking a brief pause, let's take a look at the chat. Let's see, we have Def B, who has been here, Droop Dog. I don't recall, but I do believe I've seen you before. Lara Croft and Lurks. Thank you to those who join my stream, and to those who are not bots. If you are a bot, I will find you and I will be rid of you, eventually. That's not a good sign. Tunnels go to Cauldron Lake.
Without warning, the headache stabbed at my brain.
Alice?
My apologies, Alice, if that's truly you. But this feels like progress, which means that the other way may, in fact, be the way with more lore. Or at least some handy loot. Well, this is a clear drop-off, and as such I will be going back down the other way. This, children, is why you eat your vegetables and exercise. If not, then you may find yourself gasping for breath after a mere 10 seconds of the lightest jog.
I'm losing it. I gotta get out of here.
Ah, and there was a page. And some water, presumably from the lake. Even a small cutscene.
The hunters were big, thick-set men, confident and at home in the woods. They were feeling good, running on beer, ghost stories, and camaraderie late into the night. It did them no good, as they were taken by the dark presence, sucked deep into a darkness far worse than any ghost story they ever told or heard.
If only those poor hunters kept some form of light on them with which to see in the darkness. But apparently Alan Wake is the only one with a flashlight with which to swing at people.
Even behind the closed doors and curtains of his grimy room at the Majestic, the local motel, Nightingale could feel the locals' eyes on him, the unrelenting pressure of their judgment. He forced it out of his mind. For all he knew, they could all be under Wake's spell already. You do what you have to do to get the job done. He took comfort from the bottle in his hand. Please, he thought, just let me get through this.
Ah, and constant drunk as well. That looks very much like a cutscene starter. I was not incorrect. That one appears to be dealt with for now. Having fun back there?
I'd have to make my way up this mine shaft in order to go on. Maybe the machinery could help me with that. Try not to trip this time, eh, Wake? But oddly specific machinery.
And yet more flares. Now this feels like a shot out of an open world. Congratulations, you beat the puzzle. Look at how far you've come. Look at our gorgeous scenery. Yes.
Lightning flashed behind the windows of Cauldron Lake Lodge. Tor Anderson laughed and held the steel hammer above his head. Nurse Sinclair was trying to calm him down without success. Tor grinned madly and shouted, "My hammer's up. Here's a friendly poke from Molnir, wench." He brought the hammer down with all his might on Sinclair's head. "We're on a comeback tour, baby."
Now, I would assume this would be something in order to bring air down into the mine. Alright, back to the birds. Or perhaps the birds gave up.
Oh, great. Another cable car. Just great.
Off they fly, far into the distance. Well, down we go. Graceful. Well, that could have gone far worse. My, that almost hit me. Well, once more we go into the woods. Ow. An interesting tidbit. Though not entirely confirmed within the realm of the game, it has been theorized that the health within this game is, in fact, not health at all, and is Alan's sanity. To elaborate further, however, would invite spoilers. Cauldron Lake. The 8th deepest lake in the world, Cauldron Lake is a caldera lake, formed in a volcanic crater. The volcano itself could be considered to be active, but is not erupted since the volcanic earthquakes of 1970. And even then, the underground activity was comparably mild. Despite some property damage, there were no casualties. Cauldron Lake is one of the most beautiful spots in the Bright Falls area, as well as a central figure in many local folk tales. It's a popular recreational area for the area residents. Graceful Alan. A valiant effort, boys. Do try harder next time. Quite a lot of flare gun ammo I'm getting this chapter.
Maud had checked all of Stucky's rental cabins. There had been no sign of the Wakes. It was dark when he'd found their car parked at the end of the road by Cauldron Lake. It made no sense. They must have taken a wrong turn, but there was no sign of them, and the car had been there for hours already. Frustrated, Mott stood on the rotten ruin of the footbridge that had once led to Diver's Isle before it sank beneath the waves years ago. The boss wouldn't be happy.
Well, it's a good thing it fell in such a controlled manner as opposed to exploding into splinters. Like that. Well, not nearly as exploded into splinters as some of the others you've ran into, but... Going to check. Well, I was going to check to make sure there was nothing there, but... Coming down to find out what happened to your friends. No, I don't quite recall some of this ammo being here a moment before. One moment. All right. You know, I do feel it would simply, well, been simpler to climb the fence. Ah, well.
I could see Cauldron Lake. I thought I could make out the spot where the island and the cabin had been. There was a light near it. It had to be a boat. I was close now. I had to get there fast. I dreaded what I would find. I tried to hold on to Alice, but her form melted away. I was losing control. Dr. Hartman stood in her place. I wanted to hit him, but my arms were jelly. He smiled. It was a reassuring smile, and I hated him for it. I had to give you a sedative. Don't fight it. You went through another rough period. Right now, it's very important that you stay calm. We don't want you to have another episode. You're a patient at my clinic. Have been for a while now.
Wait! Are you? Wait! Hey, I'm here! I'm coming! No! Get away! Sorry. Please, lady. The boss didn't know who he was messing with. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. We don't have his wife. We don't know where she is. She's probably drowned. We just said we had her to make him play ball. You see? To get him writing for us. Please. Please. Oh. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me.
Well, now. Well, there goes all that plentiful flare gun ammunition. Ah, well. End of episode 3. And this will be the section that will no doubt be silenced from both the VOD and my upload to YouTube due to copyright. I believe that's a slightly longer than usual episode, given it's been about 2 hours and a quarter. Still, quite enjoyable, and seems to double its own length. Oddly plentiful ammunition, given what you go up against. Although perhaps it would be in fact more difficult on hard mode. While I did die a few times, well, at least one of them was simply due to Alan refusing. Well, two of them were due to the game simply locking up the controls, which is rather frustrating, as you may imagine. Although it does appear that the kidnapper, not that he could truly be called a kidnapper, got something of a comeuppance. In addition, we were introduced to Nightingale. Possibly a literary reference, but he is certainly no Agent Cooper. I wonder if any of you have watched or will watch Twin Peaks after this. Not that I have a great many people actually paying attention to this. Although I do wish I would a bit. Well, obviously, as with many a content creator, I do deeply wish I had a larger audience, and I do deeply hope it will grow in time. Between my smaller collaborations and my attempts at networking and becoming friends with some other VTubers, I do hope that I will also have something of a turnout come November. I don't recall the date, I believe it's the 22nd, but that in particular will be the Extra Life Day of Play, a charity event in which I usually play each year for 24 hours straight in order to gain donations for a children's hospital. Part of the reason that my author stopped streaming for a time was due to the fact that, well, 2 years in a row they went through it without a single viewer. Their only donations gathered being from family members. You can imagine how that must feel. And you can imagine both of our collective rage when it turns out that Twitch is implementing a system that allows people to simply buy views, to buy advertisement, to pay in order to have themselves thrust upon the front page.
Previously on Alan Wake.
We'll save that for next time. Right. Well, as far as my chat goes, thank you DefB, Droop Dog, Lanere, Lara Croft, Lily Redwolf, and Lurks. I hope you don't mind if I jot your names down just to make sure you aren't bots later. Now, let's see who to raid. Not that I have many active viewers. As a reminder to all, please use the lurk command. I know it's a little counterproductive, but it does help count you as an active viewer. Let's go ahead and put you with Mokarui. She's sort of a friend of a friend. Well, I hesitate to call her dominant, cat girl, who's a friend of Hotaru, a fey deer, who's a bit of a deer, and a bit of a herbivore. Anyways. With that, I bid all of you good night. Please have a good evening, and please stay safe.